All right, everybody. Welcome to the Ramsey County Board Workshop. Today's workshop will be a presentation on the Minnesota Resource Management Draft Report. Courtesy reminder that this board workshop is recorded and it is live streamed on Zoom webinar. There will be no votes taken during this workshop. Let's start with introductions of commissioners and presenters around the table and then move to the rest of the room. Commissioner Kelly Miller, District 7.
Harrison McCarter, Commissioner in District 3.
Mike Chong, Commissioner, District 6.
Commissioner, District 5.
Mary Jo McGuire, Commissioner, District 2.
Tara Jevon Singh, Commissioner, District 1.
Rena Moran, Commissioner, District 4.
Lynn Becker, County Manager.
Sam Hall, Ramsey, Washington, Second Energy Facility Director.
Krista Martinson, Ramsey, Washington, Executive Director.
Sam Hansen, Ramsey, Washington, Recycling Energy Programs Director.
Nadir Abdi, District County Manager, Health and Wellness Service Team.
Jane, Administrative Planning System. Lee Barron, Ramsey, Washington Planning Manager. Gary Collins, Deputy County Manager, Economic Growth Investment.
Daniel Schmidt, Division Manager with Environmental Health as it relates to this, county's Joint Activities Manager. Dan Donkers, Environmental Health.
Matt Freeman, Government Relations Specialist, Ramsey County.
E.T. Brian Adam, Government Relations.
Ray Frank, St. Paul, Ramsey County Deputy Director.
Amy Karen, St. Paul Ramsey County Public Health Director. Jeff Orr, Ramsey, Washington Recycling and Energy Executive Assistant.
Lily Woods, Public Relations Director. Rosia Dixon, Policy and Strategy Intern.
All right. So since 1975, have worked together to reduce and manage solid waste responsibly. This year marks Ramsey, Washington Recycling and Energy's 10-year anniversary of shared ownership and operation of the R&E Center in Newport, a partnership that has guided more than 50 million in public investments that capture the resource value of discarded materials and benefit local communities, economy, and the environment. In 2023, the Minnesota legislature directed the MPCA to assess resource management across the state and analyze opportunities to reach 90% waste diversion by 2045, sometimes referred to as zero waste. In April of this year, the MPCA released a 358-page draft report for public comment. This workshop will inform the Ramsey County Board on the draft resource management report in the context of the current solid waste management system in Ramsey and Washington counties, progress towards the state and county goals, and concerns identified by staff in the draft report. This discussion provides an overview of these concerns, the basis for recommended revisions to the report, and both immediate and broader next steps for the R&E and the counties to continue advancing waste prevention, landfill diversion, and sustainable materials management in the East Metro and statewide. This workshop will be presented by Executive Director Trista Martinson with support from Facilities Director Sam Hall, Programs Director Sam Hansen, and Planning and Projects Manager Leah Behrens.
Yeah.
Take it away, Trista.
Thank you, for sure. First, we're gonna just quickly do an update of our budget. County Manager Becker asked to just remind you all in the budget process, because you will not see us again in this budget process, that you approved our 2-year budget last year. Like it's. I don't know the slides were, but okay. Okay, so as you all know this, but as a reminder, we are Ramsey, Washington. We're a joint powers agreement between Ramsey and Washington County. And you have 3 board members and 1 alternate on our board, and Washington County has 2. And then we have 2 main budgets, and that is our facilities budget, which is funded by our processing and resource recovery, and our tip fees paid by garbage haulers. That does not require your approval. The part that you approve every year is the programs budget, which are funds used for reduction of waste and recycling programs. And it is funded from the county's environmental charge is how that's funded. And we just, you all appropriate a portion of your CEC funds to fund the programs that R&E does. So just as a reminder, we have our R&E program budget. That was a 2-year budget proposed for 26 and 27, approved last year. We have no changes to our 27 budget. And so we have submitted it to your environmental health team to submit as part of their budget process with no changes to the budget. It was previously approved. And then, the facility budget, just for, again, this does not require your approval, but this is our budget, but just highlighted this because there will be changes as of previously, presented to you in the tip fees for 27. So right now, our tip fees that haulers pay when they come across our scale is $142 a ton. There will be an increase in 27 of $159 a ton. And that increase is completely to cover the expansion of the food scrap program and those transfer stations. So again, our tip fee is just covering our operational expenses. And so that's what the tip fee is for 2027. Letters will be going out to haulers soon to let them know of that increase. Last year, we let them know it was coming. We'll remind them again of the increase starting in January. Sometimes that's when you get phone calls when they get that letter. So just for your awareness, that letter goes out on this, right?
Yeah, yep. And we typically try to meet with the haulers to explain the cost increases for the tipping fee. And in this one, if you see there's an increase, but it's not, there are new services that weren't in the previous budget. So the sortation for our Linux program and the digestion for that is driving the cost increases from 26 to 27. And going forward, we're negotiating a new agreement with Xcel Energy. So that impact will be realized in 2028. So there will be additional increases, but also what the counties can say that they're already doing is the MPCA has a 2030 pre-processing requirement that both counties are already meeting that expectation. So the other counties that are gonna have to implement that are gonna have to fund those programs somehow. So
We're ahead of it.
Yes. Commissioner Squire?
Just to affirm and let everyone know, we own this facility, so haulers need to haulers have to work with us. I mean, they have to bring their garbage to our facility, which is why we can plan better.
Yes.
And when we raise the fees, they either pass them on or they eat them themselves. So generally they pass them on, which they sometimes pass them on more than they need to, I think. But anyway, we don't have a lot of control over that, but we do have haulers that need to bring their garbage to us. And that's a good thing.
Yes, we have an ordinance called designation.
Thank you.
Because we own and operate as a government entity, we can have designation, which means we can control what happens to the waste. This is a very good thing. This is why we can do things like invest in compost anaerobic digestion and really work to both counties' goals and our needs goals around reduction to landfill.
So if we raise fees and they don't want to pay or do whatever, they can't take their garbage somewhere else,
I can,
which is a good thing.
yes.
So thank you. I just wanted to level set for all of us on this.
thanks, Madam Chair, if I may add,
Mhm.
the waste in the two counties is 14% of the state's waste and we manage about 450,000 tons of trash. And we pull out about 3%, 3.5% of metals. And through waste to energy, we divert about 85% from landfill. So this budget represents that diversion rate. And if we weren't doing what we're doing, we would be landfilling 100%.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Thanks for that reminder.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you.
So now we're gonna get into this resource management report, and some of you were at the District 10 meeting, so you had a little preview. Which is why County Manager Becker said, let's come back and do a workshop with the full board, just so that folks understand. When it comes to waste management, every county in the state of Minnesota is responsible for it. In Ramsey and Washington County, because you all have been working together as the two counties for 50 years, you really have been collaborative on how you work on it. And then the purchase of the facility really emphasized how we can manage things with them. Other counties are not in such a good standing like we are. So I hope you all feel really good about that. We definitely are kind of the showroom and what other counties want to do. There are other counties that have collaboratives that work together. Those tend to be the strongest partners we have in policy making and systems. And then many of the counties are just burying their waste. Which I can paint the environmental picture, but it's not good. So some of the things that are driving the work that we do are, again, there's rules and regulations that exist that we are trying to meet. And those are the state regulations around the Waste Management Act that was implemented in 1980. It's been around that long, that established the waste hierarchy, both nationally and at the state of Minnesota. Then we have the 2030 Metro 75% recycling goal. There's also a state 75% recycling goal. With the onboarding of the food scrap program, we will actually meet that goal of 75% recycling rate. Because of that additional amount of recycling. Then there's the Metro pre-sortation requirement that Sam just mentioned by 2030. We are already meeting that. That means all waste has to be pre-sorted before going to landfill. Other counties now are scrambling on what to do and how to do that. That could have unintended consequences back on to the rest of us. So we are engaged in that comments and education around pre-sortation as well. And then the food scrap recycling mandate by 2035, which says all communities in the metro area over 5,000 must offer food scraps collection. So again, that's on communities, but we're ahead of it. We're already doing it and we'll meet that goal by 2027. So we're great there. And then the carbon-free energy standard, it is implemented in effect, and we continue to track that, the policy making and rulemaking there that has gone to the Public Utilities Commission. We did have a ruling and finding that saying that, biofuels, waste to energy meet the carbon-free standard. It is being contested. So the PUC already ruled on it. Now it's being contested. We might see that at the Supreme Court for a final decision, but we're watching that really closely. In fact, there's another hearing on it next week at the Public Utilities Commission. This is important in the fact that we make waste to energy and provide to Xcel. If that doesn't meet the carbon-free standard, Xcel will stop burning it, which means we'll have to bury it. So it's really important to defend that. And so we spend a lot of time and energy, no pun intended, working on those things, and we track that very closely at R&E. And then there's a 2050 net zero carbon emissions statute as well. Of course, then you all as counties have your own ambitious solid waste management plans, and the two counties, Ramsey and Washington, and your staff and environmental health that wrote those plans in collaboration with R&E made sure that their plans aligned. So they're working collaboratively. It was actually the first time that they aligned so well. And so they did a lot of work there. And then also our scope of resource management that the board sets out for us at R&E.
I just want to ask
Yes.
one quick question on our county solid waste waste management plans.
Yes.
Those are connected to our CEC dollars. So are those required by?
Okay, so yep, so every county has to have a solid waste plan. It's
Yep.
required by the state. And so it was approved in 2026. And I'm gonna turn the Dan Dunkers and Dan Schmidt, because that's their plans. Did I have those numbers right? 2026 is when it was approved? No, this is 2026,
2024.
Four. Yeah, there you go, 24.
Or
Yes, it's
24, it was approved,
it
right,
was
yeah.
approved, yeah, but MPCA just got around to approving it, right? Yes, so you all approved it in 24, MPCA got around to approving it in 26. They're typically done every 5 years, but since they're late, it will probably be late for the next one.
Okay,
And so those plans are not directly tied to your CEC dollars.
some of them are.
Yeah, the CEC dollars must be used for the things in the plan, so it's that way. Yes.
Okay, that way.
Yes,
And CEC is county environmental charge.
your county environmental.
And
charge.
that's charged on.
Your garbage bill.
pickup, So the garbage haulers,
Yeah.
it's on your garbage hauler bill.
It is on your bill, yep.
Okay,
And
not
yes.
on the county, not on.
Not on
the
taxes.
Yes, it's a service fee to do all the work on the environmental
Okay,
recovery
great.
work that you all do. Yes.
Perfect,
Yep.
thank you.
Great, thanks.
Yes. And then, of course, there's other things that we're tracking. You know, we don't want to necessarily wait for policy to tell us to do something. We're always looking ahead to see what's coming. How can we influence policy before it's written, to make sure it's working for our goals? And those are things like PFAS management, which is why we're doing organics to pyrolysis to help manage the PFAS. Obviously, we worked really hard on the extended producer responsibility for packaging and other materials, because it's pushing that waste up the waste stream to make other people, and honestly, EPR is probably the biggest game changer in the waste processing, because it puts the financial burden back on the producer. So that makes them think differently about how much they're producing and reduces the waste in the end. And then obviously, we're always doing research and development on waste processing technologies. There's lots of technologies always coming on the market. Some is snake oil and some is maybe has potential. And so we're always evaluating, especially as you talk to community members who have really strong opinions on different technologies that they are good or bad. We are always evaluating so that we have the science and facts on our sides. And then, of course, there's always there are always going to be something else on the horizon that we're trying to be ready for at the same time. So there's been a few of these things I just mentioned have kind of come out all at the same time with either reports or policies that the MPCA released, mostly post end of or this session when it was over and they had time. They released everything for public comment. The first one is the resource management report, which I'm going to go in a little deeper today. And this is really it is a report draft that has been released that will go a little deeper that originally had a comment period that ended today. We worked really hard at getting that extended along with our partners at AMC. And so they have officially approved an extension to August 10th for comment periods. And then at the same time, the Packaging Waste and Cost Reduction Act has a draft comment period that is comes up in July 24th. We are sitting in a really good place because you have really talented staff like Dan Donkers and Daniel Schmidt who have been working along with our staff on what does a comment letter and the partnership on waste to energy. So we're sitting in a good space for that comment letter as well on the rulemaking. And then at the same time, we have the critical materials report has just been released. They've done a series of webinars about the critical materials report. There's not exactly a comment period. They did this one a little differently. It's quite interesting. It is around the recovery of critical materials, and they had a task force that is advising, so it doesn't necessarily have a comment period. Interesting, we watched the webinar and asked the specific question of how does the critical materials report align with the materials recovery report? And they said they don't read each other's reports in the same agency because they were directly in conflict. When we read it, we're like, you're conflicting with your own agency. And they're like, oh, maybe we should do that. So it gives you an example of when they have a very big agency working on things, it's very siloed. But we as counties then are impacted to like, how do we sort this all out? Which is why it's important for us to really pay attention to these things. And then, of course, I've already mentioned the carbon-free standard that we continue to track with the Public Utilities Commission, and we'll keep our eyes very closely because it will greatly impact the way that we do our work, how we do it, and then future budgets. It doesn't stand. All right, so let's get into the resource management report. So this is just one of the reports that came out. This was the 385-page report that came out. And just to get a sense of where it came from. So in 2023, advocates from the Zero Burn Coalition and Zero Waste Coalition went to the legislature and said, we have this vision of a waste-free Minnesota. Let's make them do a study and a report. And it was passed into law. And in 23 that said they had to do a report basically saying, let's start at a new baseline. Let's say that we are reducing all landfill and waste to energy by 90% by 20. And what would it take? That's essentially what the report, and it said evaluate all these things. The premise of the report in the first place is the flaw in that, as I mentioned, we have goals to get at 75% recycling. The state is at about 42% right now. I totally support the need for a ban on landfills or a reduction in landfills. A 90% reduction is a really good goal, but you can't do it at the same time that you're reducing waste to energy because there is no other, what are you going to do with it? As you know, we're working really hard to educate community to just participate in the food scrap collection program. You all have invested millions of dollars in that, and we're at 13% participation in existing communities. These things take a really long time. Human behavior is the hardest thing to change. And just putting it into policy doesn't change human behavior. Just as an example, we often look to our European partners because they're doing things great. Germany has an overall like 52% recycling rate, and they have lots of really strict policies. So for us to jump to 90%, it's a flawed requirement. The other thing is that it puts on the waste hierarchy, as we think about landfill being the worst, waste to energy is a preferred method, it puts them on the same playing field and removes waste to energy.
Wow.
If you have paid attention to any of the news, what's happening in Hennepin County around the HERC, that is what's driving this report and the advocates there that are driving it. They're driving it with misinformation and logical fallacies. Things like, if you're incinerating, it's causing smoke, there's particulate matter is coming out and we have asthma. I will tell you on Saturday night, and all of those fireworks that you all enjoyed released about 100 times more particulate matter than the HERC has since its existence.
In one night? Wait,
Yep,
sorry.
yep,
What?
yep. So when we think about what we're tackling to do those things for the community, we have to use science and facts and not just emotion. But so this original report came from that very emotional group of advocates that you all will be hearing from if you haven't already. Because as they are being successful in Hennepin, they will move to the other counties. And this report is basically their toolbox, which is why it's so important that we get this report right. So not to scare you, but we're scared. And so just want to give you kind of the impetus of why we're having this.
Madam Chair, can I just,
Oh, yeah.
I made this comment at AMC too, that these are people that elect all of us. I mean,
Yes.
these are a lot of our advocates. These are a lot of our supporters that have this in mind, that they
Yes.
think they need to, reduce the pay on the burner.
Yes.
And I used to come from that. I mean, I'm an environmentalist.
Yeah.
I really care about the environment, but I have come to be educated that this is, it's just like Trista says, this is a really flawed everything.
Yes.
That we really, the waste to energy is a viable option
Yes.
that's much safer than
Yes.
everything else we could do.
Yes.
So they just have to be educated. So we are gonna hear from them, but we all are gonna need to educate our
Yes.
people, our supporters.
Yeah.
Commissioner Moran?
So as we need to educate, are you educating them and then how they responding?
Yeah.
Like, we don't believe you or something?
Yeah. No, I don't know if I can say I'm educating. We're certainly trying.
Okay.
We are open to conversations. This same group that has, I don't know if you'll know, but they actually go to all the Hennepin County board meetings and disrupt their board meetings. We've actually invited them into R&E. Several have come on tours. We have conversations, and it is a civil conversation at this point. Whether it changes their mind or not, I'm not sure. Some people are very, when someone gets something in their mind, that's what they're gonna do and they believe it, right? I think what happens often, and the current administration doesn't help, but people don't trust government anymore, right? And so all they have to say is, no matter what I say, they're like, oh, you're lying, you're government. And we're not lying. I'm an environmentalist. I care about our communities extensively, as you all know. But so it's a little bit of that. There will be some that will never trust us and never believe us. I think what's important is that we continue basing our decisions and judgment on facts and science.
How about the commissioners over in Hennepin County? Are you having conversations with them?
Absolutely.
Being educated, informed?
Yes, but they are very well informed. They're working really hard. I think that they're just stuck in a different scenario, and in some ways, and we partner with them very closely on the partnership of waste and energy. They're just in a very tough situation, and they're being held hostage, not just by some advocates, but some legislators. So I don't know.
Are you educating them?
It is not a lack of effort. I will just say, it is not a lack of effort. And which is why this report is so important. Which is why this report is so important, because this report now is due and will be presented to the legislature in January.
They're not gonna be there, so you gotta do some one-on-ones.
Well, yes, but it's also a flawed report. So if it is presented with misinformation, and we have no less than 43 new legislators coming, they're gonna get their first exposure to waste management
And
of
this will be the
false.
message.
And this is the message. So that's why when this report came out, we said we have to respond and get it right. Otherwise, they're gonna get misinformation, and you all know how hard it is to craft misinformation. Okay, so let's get into the report.
Yeah. We were working on it.
Mhm.
All right, so as I mentioned, the importance is because the new legislative body, there's actually 43 new legislators coming in, no less, and that's presuming everyone who's running for reelection gets reelected. Otherwise, there's gonna be even more. You all know what's at stake when we have all new people, and they will have never had any other opportunity. Especially hard to get to new people as opposed to sitting, because we don't know who they are yet. The other thing is that though it is a draft report, some of those advocates are already quoting the language in this report and using it as fact. I just presented at a panel discussion with folks on kind of all levels of spectrum on the environment. And even there, they said, this is the new state's goal of 90%, which is not true. It only has 90% because the legislature said, what would it take to get to 90%? And the state's goals around 75% recycling and other things still stand, but they're quoting it differently and telling that to community and to include into the media. So we're already just, based on a draft report, they're already using it as misinformation.
Tristan,
Yes.
but who is doing, is there like a committee that's drafting this and who are they?
Yeah, so this report came out of the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency because the environmental committee at the legislature directed them to do this report.
But isn't it informed people? Maybe not.
Risha Moran, you have sat at those tables. I'm gonna let you answer your own question.
So some of the things we've heard is that, they had to do it really fast. They probably asked AI to do some of it. They probably didn't read it after they did it, because it had to be, it's just a draft. It's just a draft that everybody wants to comment on. So they just put it out there, not realizing the impact that community is gonna do and take it as fact. So they just, and I don't wanna disparage all of our hardworking, people in state government, but, everybody's really busy. So they just said, well, let's throw them something to comment on. So I'm sorry, I'm a little flip about it, but
I agree with you.
yeah.
Commissioner Guire, so we have met with staff to get kind of the,
Yeah.
what happened here?
Yeah.
This is a really, really bad.
Really bad.
They contracted an outside agency that does reports like this. It's already past due. It was supposed to be delivered to the legislature in January 26th. And they didn't meet their deadline, so they're presenting it January 27, which is worse for us because now it's even less
Yeah.
informed legislators.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my God.
Now it's all new people. My understanding is they received it from consultants. They reviewed and tried to fix it a couple times and then just ran out of time is basically what happened. But it had been revised a couple times. We were told, quote, you should have saw the first draft.
Oh, God.
I was like, well, that doesn't make it better, but anyway, that's where we're at. So here we are now. Obviously, I've mentioned our concerns about what's wrong with the report, why it's bad, and that is regional collaboration and public-private partnerships are not even discussed as part of the solution of getting to that 90% goal. It vastly underestimates the significant capital and programmatic investments. As you all know, we've already invested 50 million just in our own facility. And other counties have no starting point. Where is that money gonna come from? If you think about all the competing factors, you all were just talking about HR1, right? Like you have so many other competing factors. It doesn't even say, where is that money gonna come from? As you know, when this goes to the legislature and they think it's a good idea, it becomes policy and it is one more unfunded mandate to counties that we don't have money to do. And that's what we're looking for. The value of energy recovery from waste to energy is completely omitted when they put us on the same plane as landfilling. And we know that that's really critically important, not just from a waste management aspect, is that refuse drive fuel that we create is not going to landfill. It is being thermally treated through combustion and capturing the energy potion off. So reduction of fossil fuels, right? It's already minerals and stuff have already been harvested. Let's get them back out of the system. And so that's completely omitted in this report. And then it's just completely insufficient on the feasibility, can this even happen, realistic timelines and funding, or even a governance structure. So they were tasked to do all of that and they just left it out. I've kind of mentioned why this is all, it's a crushing financial burden is the ultimate scary part. And it also jeopardizes 50 years of your investments if we go to landfill. The other thing is we don't have landfill capacity, right? And if we just say omit landfill, omit waste energy, where's the rest of the garbage gonna go? Right? Like, so I was in a meeting with a group of, and by the way, you all are the biggest investors currently in the state of zero waste infrastructure. That's what your joint activities programming is doing. So everything we do on food recovery and redistributing to community, on our fix-it clinics, through your environmental health team, in our recycling programs, you all are currently the biggest investors in zero waste infrastructure. And we're not there yet. We still are processing 400,000 tons of trash through our facility every year. So to say, we're just gonna say, well, we're gonna get rid of these two tools. I don't know what you're gonna do with. What we're gonna see is people are gonna be dumping it in their backyard and their ditches because they still have garbage. I was chatting with a group of folks who are diehard zero wasters, and then watched a young man reach in his backpack, pull out his 10-pack of Trident gun, unwrap the plastic, unwrap the stuff, and so now he's got a pile of that plastic wrap, right? And I was like, you're a zero waster. What is that? Where does that go? Right? So it is a idea that we support. It's a goal. Our goal is to push everything up the waste hierarchy and not create more waste. But there will always be some waste that we have to have the tools to process. And that's the importance here. And we want to do that with the least impact to the environment. So just to give you an example, right now in Ramsey and Washington County, on average, every single one of you produce 5.7 pounds of trash a day. All of us, everyone in this room. About 2.85 pounds of that is actual garbage that's going to end up in your garbage can that we're going to process. About 1.75 pounds is recycled. It's still waste. Even if it's recycled, there is some residual waste from recycled materials and you're still harvesting virgin materials from the environment, right? So it's still waste. We're just putting it in a different bin to process. And then 1.1 pounds are composted. Again, all of those things require infrastructure and investment to do, but we're still producing 5.7 pounds a day per person in our two countries.
You get more.
Right. Right here, look at my plastic, right, it is the way our society is geared, and post-COVID, by the way, actually exacerbated how much we're single-use containering, right? And now we all feel okay because we drink it out of our own water bottle because it's recyclable. There's still a harm being caused by that item, right? Because you're harvesting virgin materials to make it. It's a whole process. Anyway, don't want to get into doomsday, but this is just an example of what's happening. So the green line bar there is how Ramsey and Washington County is doing compared to the rest of the state. So we are actually producing a little less waste than other places in the state. So our people are being educated. That's proof that education works, but it's a little bit, right? We're still discarding trash, but we're discarding less trash than other counties. We are then, what's getting discarded is converting to energy. So we're doing much better there. We're significantly lower on landfilling because our goal is to not landfill anything because water always wins. And if we bury it, we can't do the PFAS prevention and the other preventive stuff that goes into our water system. Our recycling is about on par with other places. There's a few places doing better than we are. And of course, we're doing great on organics. So the message is we reduced more, we discard less, we generate more energy, we landfill a lot less. We recycle about the same, and we're doing much better in organics compared to the rest of the state, but also tell you how far we have to go. So the education is working, Commissioner Rand, but people are real hard to change. Because what's easy, right? We have a vision for a circular economy. Reduce, reuse, right? But also then what's has already been produced, let's make sure we're keeping it, right? So circularity minimizes waste, recovers value of discarded materials, it keeps them in the cycle. Recycling and energy systems are connected. It has to be connected. It harnesses that energy so that we're not wasting more or going upstream to get more virgin materials. Energy recovery is the backstop to capture value otherwise lost to landfills. Many of you have heard it, if not all of you, but I'll say it again. If it is produced with energy, there's still energy in it. And that's the last thing we could get back out as long as we have the tools. But a report like this eliminates that tool for us to do that.
Commissioner McMurtry?
No, real quick question,
Yeah.
with the circular economy, I know we've had conversations about sustainable aviation. fuel.
Yes.
What role does that play in this circular economy
Yeah.
and how is that being built out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there is emerging, again, this is us on our emerging technology side. There's emerging technology that we have been engaged with. Sam Hall and I have been to the staff conferences. We've been talking to technology providers. There's emerging technology that could take waste and turn it into sustainable aviation fuel. Right now, a little further ahead is actually wood waste to sustainable aviation fuel. That certainly would fit into that circularity. Is we have waste, what else can we do with it? It would, again, it's in that technology production. One of the technology providers that's part of the greater MSP Sustainable Aviation has done a study with the University of Minnesota, and they are now ready to go from basically the lab phase to a pilot phase. And we're having conversations of, could we be that pilot project? Is there opportunity there? At the same time, the rest of the world is trying to do it at the same time, right? Everybody around the world is trying to figure out, how can we reduce our reliability on fossil fuels, make clean energy, and use the resources we have? So there is a technology provider that's currently in Spain that we have met with, that is now building an actual plant. They were funded collaboratively by public-private partners in Spain that will be up and operational in February of next year, that will take municipal solid waste to sustainable aviation fuel. So we're watching. So we're not quite in it yet, but we're really close on figuring that out. And we're always looking for those other ways that we can solve two problems: reduce our reliance on fossil fuels, create energy, which we all know we're going to need a lot more of, and reduce waste. So this comment letter, I'll let you kind of understand the big picture and the thought and the problem. What we are suggesting, we've reviewed all 285 pages. My staff has reviewed it. Your staff has reviewed it. We've been working collaboratively, and we're at drafting letters. We currently have a draft letter that's about 10 pages long. Happy to share it with
Okay,
you.
gotta minimize that.
Well, so the draft letter goes back to the MPCA, then there'll be an executive summary for the legislature. Yes.
Cause I was thinking about a whole campaign around this where we want our community members who
Right.
trust you or trust the process
Yes.
to also submit a letter.
Yes.
And it needs to be a one pager,
Yeah.
right? Just hit them, inform them, educate them.
Yeah.
And say, we oppose it, whatever,
Yes.
right?
That's a great idea.
Very intentional.
Yes, we'll definitely do that. So what we are suggesting is, so the critical materials task force created a task force that took those other stakeholders' viewpoints instead of just a report out of the MPCA. That we are gonna say is, go back and create a task force so you can get this other information, as opposed to, hey, staff person, write this report. So we're going to recommend that. And then for us, it's really critical that they distinguish waste to energy separate from landfill in setting any future goals, because it cannot eliminate that as a tool until we have other tools available for processing waste. And then to build a realistic roadmap with a phased, milestone-based approach. Ultimately, what we don't want is this report to end up in the hands of those new legislators, and they take any piece of it and try to make it policy without understanding what the whole is. Yeah. So, well. Yeah.
Commissioner Ortega?
Just, I was gonna hold this question back till you're done.
Yeah.
But what is the worst case scenario? I mean,
Yeah.
we all,
Yeah,
I get what the strategy is,
yeah.
but,
The worst case scenario is this becomes policy.
well, that's my point,
Yes.
and then what?
Yeah.
Already trying to close.
What's our negative impact to us? That's, I guess I'm looking at, you know, so great about the big picture, that's what you're talking
Yeah.
about. And we're all there, 100%. My point is, what happens if,
Yeah. Honestly, if this becomes policy, it will bankrupt you as a county. Because I don't know how you will fund what you do with the 300,000 tons that we send to Excel right now. I don't know what you do with it.
Commissioner Moran?
So, I mean, this is a real campaign,
Yeah.
right? And this is an election year. We out meeting community members. We are always out in the community.
Yeah,
We represent constituencies that hopefully that we can be a messenger of the message.
yes,
I don't have to because it's not in Ramsey County, so I'm talking to y'all, right?
yeah,
But, you know, I'm kidding. But, you know, and really, because you need like many people saying the same thing,
Yes.
because you have community people who are advocating for this. So
right,
you have to combat that
Yes.
because community members are saying, you know, this not, but
Right.
it gotta be short, gotta be consistent, and gotta be same talking points.
yes,
So everyone saying the same thing.
yes,
Yeah, and that's how we can help now,
Yeah.
because you don't want this,
right.
right? You don't want a new legislative, and we have a, you know, legislative committee here too, right?
So I think that what you can say, the short end of it is, we support a zero waste future. That is a goal that we fund. As I mentioned, you are the biggest funders of a zero waste infrastructure.
Can you send us that?
We still have to have, yes,
Because we're the partners, right?
yes, but we still have to have every tool at our ready to process the residual waste and tell human
And
beings.
this is the impact of that,
Exactly.
for cause us to have to increase our tax rates, and you're gonna pay for it, right?
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
you're gonna pay for it, right?
And how do we, if we can't meet the 75% recycling goal, how do
I'm gonna
we
make
easily
90.
get to 90 of all of?
I'm gonna keep pushing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we're gonna do everything we
Yeah,
need to do,
yeah,
right?
Yep,
We're gonna do everything that.
yes,
you said.
absolutely, yes.
Absolutely, we've been doing this for 30 years
Yeah.
since we started this. I'm saying, what if, because this is a statewide thing.
Mhm, yeah,
It isn't just about educating our.
Right.
In statewide.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to figure out in my head, how do you operationalize that outside of the metro area?
Well, it's an AMC issue. That's not
Yeah,
AMC.
I get it.
yeah,
But
everyone's working on that,
yeah, everybody's working.
yeah,
It's still a statewide issue, and this could get caught in, I could think of 100 ways in politics that have nothing to do with waste.
right,
I'm just thinking out loud in terms of plan B, you know, where do we go?
Right.
If it doesn't happen.
it's a good question. Yeah.
Commissioner McGuire and then Commissioner Devon's.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, so I've been thinking about this too, because I'm sitting in all these solid waste groups, because
Yeah.
everybody's concerned about it, so. We've been doing great, District 10, we all said, let's all send letters, and AMC, everybody send letters, every county needs to comment to the agency. We need to meet with, you know, all these staff members to say, you can't do this, because if we can't do it, nobody can do it. I mean, none of these counties can do
Right,
any of
I
this.
agree.
So it will bankrupt everyone, so.
Yeah.
When you say, what are we gonna do? Right, it will be so, right, I mean, the legislators are just, we're gonna have to continually tell them about it, but. We are gonna send letters. How feasible, when you've talked to the department, I mean, how open are they to looking at this? Do we have anybody there? And
We do.
like I said, we all wanna talk to the incoming governor candidates, like who are you gonna put in this department to work with us on these things? Cause this is crucial.
We do, we have met with the deputy commissioners and the staff
Okay.
responsible for the report. They
Yeah.
want all the feedback, they want the in-depth feedback so they can fix the report before it's published.
Okay.
What we have been advocating is there should be a cover page, the executive summary that goes to the legislature, the one page that say, this is not feasible.
Right.
That's how it should,
Yeah.
it should say, this cannot happen.
This cannot happen.
So as you know, legislatively, if 10 people said legislative 10 emails.
Yes,
It's a crisis.
It's
They won't
right,
add
you're
attention
right,
to it.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
you have to, in the front end, inundate them
Yes.
with the information up
Yes.
front,
yes,
right? And it becomes, it's on everyone's radar now. And then they begin to repeat
Right.
the message
yes,
that you're sending
yes.
to them, or the whole state is
Right.
sending.
So
We have a few
timing
different
wise,
tools though, so remember, advocacy groups can do those things, government groups can't organize that way. We have some rules, so that's why I'm, yes.
just timing, can I just ask the timing question? So the report will come out, well, all this misinformation will be circulating.
It's already being circulated.
It's already being circulated, so we're gonna be trying to adjust this report for the legislators by
Correct.
January.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, throughout the campaign, this will all be circulated, so we can't wait for the report to come out, we just gotta keep countering the misinformation as much as we can. So we have
That's
to,
right.
all hands on deck every
Yeah.
which way.
And if you see part of our program, our media campaign at R&E, if you see our tweets, you see our stuff, it'll talk about waste energy. It puts all these things in factual perspectives. Please just retweet them, reshare. We're doing a community education campaign, not just on this report, but in general for misinformation. But yes, it's already circulated.
Commissioner Jevonson?
Question, and help you with this, is the idea of thinking critically on, many of the people who, as you said earlier, are feeling as if maybe the hurt for other kind of waste to energy are not as environmentally safe, or wherever they fit in the hierarchy of the end goal, but they're, you have to walk before you can run kind of a thing. So we have to kind of ladder our way towards our end goal. What reports and science and other sources would they lay down on the table and say, but this is the information that I'm getting that informs my opinion of this, so that we understand, how they got to that place, so that we can understand, because as you said, many of these folks are people who are allies in the general sense of these are goals that we all want to meet. There are biggest ambassadors in the kinds of waste reduction that we want. So I want to be able to be respectful in the idea of what, if you could help us with that a little bit, so that we can be able to come in and say, I understand that this is a widely read report. However, this was based on a blah, 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 the idea of how help us, because I want to be respectful of people in community who have deeply held beliefs.
I don't know, I could not tell you what report, or if there's a report that they're basing their feelings on. I think, again, it comes to that things are being emitted in the air. I have asthma, let me point to what I believe is the culprit. We have commissioned through the Minnesota Resource Recovery, Hennepin County, Excel Energy, all commissioned scientists to study the stacks and what's being, we have all those reports, we've released them, we share, and their response is your government. Or they say, well, but you didn't test for these other 1,000 PFAS chemicals. There's no testing available for those particular chemicals, but we have tested for everything. Every time they say you do this, we test for it, and they don't believe the testing. And when I say we, I mean a collective we, not R&E.
And I will say that there has been a history of different types of plants and other kinds of things that have done disproportionate harms to communities. And so this isn't based on some kind of out of the air thing. There is a history of reasons why people would be suspect.
Totally.
And so that's the thing I want to make sure that as we're in community, that we're not just like, well, you just don't know.
Right.
I want to engage in a way that is meaningful and respectful, because I mean, there's a reason why people have that feeling. And so anything you can do to help us round out that would be really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're totally right. I often say, I grew up in Little Falls and we had a burning barrel in the backyard. And what didn't fit in the burning barrel, we drove to Grandpa's empty gravel pit and we dumped it in the gravel pit. And then once a year, Grandpa said, that was all really bad. That was the way waste was processed in Morrison County, and still as,
You say still do?
yes.
Still.
We have, now, I don't, right, anymore.
You know better.
I know better, but,
My
yes,
do that in Nursing
yes,
County.
but we're from, graduated high school with Fleet's husband. And yes, that's the way, that was waste management in Morrison County. And so, yes, those are bad. Yes, that happens. Now they have other waste managers there. I don't want to throw them all under the bus, but many people in rural communities, that's what they have access to, right? And that is what we're trying to get away from. And what we need is to defend the waste hierarchy. We need to defend science, and we need to show them that we understand that way is bad and there has been harms. But I can tell you, you all in directives and investments and your climate action plan are living your values, and to point back to what you're investing in, how we're doing this work, how we're educating and partnering with community. I think that's the other side of it, is that, but if they take away, and I like how you said you gotta take one rung on the ladder at a time. If you pull out that middle rung, we're all in trouble. And that's what this report does, is it pulls out that middle rung. Yeah.
Any other? All right.
Yes.
Sure, if I may just add, preserving the current waste energy capacity is super important. Because if this report goes out, they'll use it to chink away at the armor to add the tax to hurt. And then the state only has 1 million tons of waste energy capacity annually, and there's 3 million tons of waste generated. So I think we need to shift where our focus is at. And will we close the Gargany Center when there's no waste? Sure, but I don't think it's my generation. So.
And we're recovering everything we can, right? Like if you think about, we're not the recycling bin, we're just what people put in the trash can, and how much we're recovering from the trash can that people fail to do the right way. And then producing waste so that we can eliminate, we're diverting 85% of what we receive away from landfill, and our goal is to divert it all.
Wow, that's a good message, right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just clarify, so what Hennepin County, who get this and
Yes.
know all this, though they did say, we will close HERC in this year.
When there's a plan.
When there's another plan. So they've had the advocates at bay saying, we will close it when we know what else to do with our trash, because otherwise that trash at Hennepin County produces, which is more than any other county in the
Well, they're
state.
currently bearing as much as we're processing, right? So they only are,
Wow.
FERC is only processing half of their waste. The other half is going to landfill.
No way.
Right. They should be building a second HERC, not closing it.
Oh my gosh. And they probably know this. It's
Oh,
just that
yeah, they do.
They're
just
hearing
stuck
the
in
same
it.
information we're hearing, and they're
Yes.
part of this PWE Partnership on Waste and Energy. So I sit there with Debbie Gattell, they do know this,
Yes.
and yet, yeah, well,
Yeah, but the advocates are shaking.
I know,
It's not,
I
these
know,
advocates have been around for.
I
decades.
know,
They
I
tell.
totally
This
know.
is not.
Yeah,
I mean, they go
And they're
to the
very-
CARES house
Yeah, they have a
That's tough.
giant inflatable gorilla outside of her house.
outside of the.
They are well organized. That's why I'm bringing up the
Yeah.
issue of, if you think we're gonna,
Right.
even in the metro, even in Hennepin County, if they buy into the advocates, those state reps, I don't care if they're Democratic progressives, they're gonna fold.
They were.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. So I'm hearing the one thing and confirm
Yeah.
that this is true. I think where we have a unique opportunity being Ramsey County and maybe Washington County is we have some proven success
Yes.
that we should highlight that makes our voice a little bit different than the average letter writer or other people, right?
Yes.
So you will help us sort of figure out it from an R&E perspective while we split up as Ramsey, Washington County, talking to our legislators, how to really uplift that conversation to show how we are making it work. And is that?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to take away
Yes.
what our lane is a little bit more
Yeah.
uniquely
Right.
than just everybody else saying, the report's false, but we can also get into a little more of.
Yeah, we're getting into the weeds for the agencies, but
Yes,
they
yes.
need us as the operators on the ground to say, this is how it really works.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
and so we're getting into the weeds with the agency. We've met with them, we've had conversations. They want a line by line, like help us fix it. What I'm asking of you all is when the advocates come, I need you to be very strong and to understand that you all are doing the right thing, that we are protecting the environment. And we're the first county to have a climate action plan, right? Like we are living our values. And we need to defend this waste hierarchy until there's other technology available, and there's not currently proven technology that's scalable, implementable, fundable, and equitable. Like, that's the filter that we look at. Even looking at SAF technology is like, is it scalable? Can we fund it? Can we get people to participate in it, right? So those are the things that we're looking at. Until that time comes, this is what we have and we must defend it.
Okay, Commissioner Sean?
I'm just looking at the roster with the environmental committee too, and what have the conversations been like with Representative Fisher as someone who's been
Yeah.
leader of the.
Yeah, so Representative Fisher has been a strong advocate, but as Commissioner Tega just mentioned, it gets really hard. But he has been a strong advocate.
For us,
For us.
for what we know to be. right,
Yes,
but-
yes, he has
okay.
been a strong advocate. The challenge is Representative Fee on the other side. He authored this legislation to do this report, and he is very strongly opposed. And he chairs the bonding committee, so that's the other piece. There are cards that are played that have maybe nothing to do with waste, but can leverage, so I'm just aware of that.
I also just want to note too, that a lot of our people who are up for reelection, they are endorsed. These advocacy groups have endorsement processes and are out there meeting with
Yeah.
everybody as well to earn their support and commitment and, to check that box for that endorsement. So I think it's really critical that we can help play a part as we can play whatever role we can play as elected officials as well.
I think it needs to be really short, because we're not the experts,
Right.
right? And so too much gobble, 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 it's
Yeah.
just gobble, gobble, gobble.
Yeah.
Right, and so you gotta have us do plain talk.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
Okay, just one quick.
quickly, because we're getting
Okay,
done
no,
on
it's-
time.
yeah, I can ask it after,
Yeah.
unless we're.
No, go ahead.
Just so organizations like the League of Women Voters.
Yes,
are-
they're very supportive. by the
Okay,
way.
so they've done the
Yeah.
research and.
They have
those are
done the
good
resource,
groups
and in
that-
fact, the League of Women Voters is supportive of protecting the HERC. They just held an online forum. They will come out. The League of Women Voters has done the homework and said, wait a minute, we care about the environment. We know that this is needed. So they came out, we did a panel discussion. I was invited to be on their panel in education, and do a presentation, so. But the environmental groups are very strong and organized and well-funded, are on a different side.
Okay, any last questions, comments? Okay, so I'm gonna wrap us up. So we just heard from our friends at the RNE on Minnesota Resource Management Draft Report that was recently released by the MPCA. The discussion focused on ensuring the report accurately reflects the work counties have already done and the realities of the current waste management system. RNE supports the long-term goals of reducing waste and increasing recycling, but they have concerns that the draft understates county investments, doesn't adequately distinguish waste to energy from landfilling, and doesn't fully account for cost and infrastructure needs to reach future goals. Staff from both the RNE and our team will be submitting comments during public comment period until August 10th, with the goal of making sure the future state policies based on accurate data, realistic timelines in collaboration with counties. I just want to also note an action item. We are asking for messaging from the RNE team that us as commissioners can share, and also just noting that the RNE is going to be sending a really detailed comment. And if there is anything that our team from the county or even us as commissioners should be sending or giving out to our constituents, that would be really helpful to have some of that draft language. I know a lot of times, even when I was in the nonprofit sector, that it was, hey, this is where we need communities help in, email your legislators this. If there's something we can do, like a call for action, as an elected official, I'd be happy to help that and reach out to my networks and contacts as well about how bad this is.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Yep. With that, we are adjourned.
Thank you.